Hey everyone, Rick here with the Ditch Pig Experience. Today I'm not excited because we got to rescue the ditch pig. So last night I'm taking the kids home to their mom's place in the ditch pig, and we get like 5 minutes from home and hear this noise. And I'd heard that noise a little bit in the afternoon that day, but couldn't figure out what it was. I thought maybe it was something to do with an idler pulley or something. So, I checked all that out and everything seemed all right. The noise kind of went away. But like I say, 5 minutes away from the house, we hear this clanging noise. It gets real bad. The kids are like, what is that? I said, I don't know. So we pull over to the gas station. I hop out and I check it out. And I still can't figure out what it is, but it's loud. It sounds like it's something inside the engine. So I grab the socket set from out from under the seat and grab a 15 mil. And I take the belt off just to make sure. Start the engine again, the noise is not there. So it's not in the engine. It's obviously something in the accessory drive. I still couldn't figure out exactly what it was, but I said, you know what? Let's just get you guys home and I'll worry about it later. Well, I didn't even get out of the gas station parking lot when I heard like a loud noise, a metal sound, and the sound of something skidding across the parking lot of the gas station. So I stopped the truck and I hop out, and this is what I found. Yes, sir. That's off my water pump. It broke the center right out of that. And that went flying across the parking lot and just spinning like it was moving. You can see on the water pump there where it was like scraping because it was wobbling. And I did see a bit of a wobble. When I stopped the truck and lifted the hood and looked at it, I figured it was the bearing in it or whatever, because I did grab the pulley and it moved a bit, but I didn't realize that the center was going to pop out of the pulley. So I'm at Andrew's place in the back of his yard. It's really close to the gas station, and he happened to go by just as the pulley fell off, like exactly as the pulley fell off. So I said, yeah, can I take this over to your place and leave it for the night? So here I am today trying to get this thing resurrected and get it back home. So the first step will be get the coolant out of this thing. These lines off, this line off, pull the water pump off. This is the factory water pump that came with the LY6. I don't know if it's good or not. I've never used it. I bought this one from Holly when I did the LS swap because it had the spout coming out this way. I figured it'd be easier, so now I gotta try and get it mounted up here. I don't know if that's gonna work or not, but I hope it does. So yeah, I'm gonna get to it, drain the coolant, start pulling this thing off, and see where we end up. There's a few minor things that I gotta deal with in order to make this work, but I think it'll all go. All right, so I got the coolant all out of this thing. Just taking off a couple of the other things. Then I'll pull the water pump off itself. I lost a bit of a coolant, but whatever. All right. Okay, I just put this water pump up into place just to see where some of the stuff is going to line up, because there's a few issues, mainly with this. As you can see, we're not lined up. When I did the LS swap and put that Holly water pump on, I had to cut the backs off this tensioner in order to get this thing lined up with the pulley. With this, I needed out whatever I cut off. And I can't remember how much it was, but it was probably half an inch, maybe. Another issue is this steam port. I've got to drill and tap this water pump either here or here and put the 1/8 MPT fitting in there to hook this into. Not a lot of room for me to navigate this, but I may put a different hose on it. I don't know. But anyway, I brought a tap kit and all that so I can do that, because that has to be done. Another issue is this rad hose. I don't think I've got enough to make it, but there might be. So I may need to get a rad hose for that. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this tensioner back off so I can drill that. Okay, so that was 11/32 drill bit. Now we gotta tap this with a 1/8 NPT fitting, which can't use that. And we'll have to try and use vice grips because I can't get the throw on it with that. All right, we'll throw some pipe dope on that and we should be good to go. Well, there's the next problem. I never even thought of it. Those spacers being gone, now the bolts are way too long for the water pump. Alright, I just took a walk to the parts store, which is basically just down the road, so it wasn't too bad. Half an hour there and back, plus purchasing time. I just bought another tensioner because, like I say, for the LS swap for that Holly water pump, I cut these off. I also had to get bolts for it. I bought a rad hose that's going to fit because the other one didn't quite make it, where the last water pump, the Holly water pump, had the spout coming out here. I also got my hose on here for the steam port. I'm just going to loop that around, but I didn't get bolts for the water pump. But as luck would have it, Andrew happens to have a 6-liter here in a pickup truck. I texted Andrew to see if I could borrow his water pump bolts, but he didn't answer me back. I got you, bud. I'll bring them back. All right, we're back in business. Get these bolts drove in here. I have no idea where that other hole is. Oh, right there. Put a zip tie on that, that should be good. I'll put the heater hoses on. Alright, lower rad hose. Come on, baby. Get on there. Oh yeah, she's on there, lads. All right, I guess the next step would be the belt. From what I can see. Oh, tensioner. Now, if I can remember how this thing goes on here. Up around the water pump, down around that, power steering pump. I think that's her. Just like that. Yeah, I think we're on there good. It's all sitting in the right ribs. Next step is coolant. All right, I got it all back together. Just flashed it up. It got up to 180 something. The fan kicked in, but the thermostat wasn't opening. So I let it go till it hit about 225 and shut her down. Thermostat housing was leaking, plus the thermostat wasn't opening. So anyway, I went and I bought a thermostat. I put some RTV on the housing and on the water pump. So I'll slam her back together and see if I can't get this thing to work. All right, it's all back together. I'm gonna flash it up, run it back up to operating temperature. Cross your fingers that the housing doesn't leak and that new thermostat works. I don't see anything dripping out of the housing, so that's a good sign. Levels dropped a little bit, but that's still not open. Normally you rev it up, the level comes up, it's not doing that. Hopefully that pump pumps. It will. 38. That ain't working.
She hot. Your heater core should be just boiling hot. I mean, that should just be pumping out the heat now because you're way too hot. Because the thermostat, like I say, it'll still bypass, your heater core will still work. I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, anytime your car starts to overheat, middle of summer, turn on your heater. Get rid of the heat somehow.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, you got heat at 120, it starts making heat.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the situation. For some reason, it doesn't seem like the pump is circulating. The thermostat's not opening. It doesn't seem like it is anyway. And there's no heat. I've got one of the steam ports cracked open to try and bleed some air off, and there's air coming out of it, a little bit of coolant once in a while, but something's not working. So the next step here, I'm just gonna go buy a new water pump, see if we can get that to work. All right, you guys, I'm back at it again, trying to get this thing finished off. Last night, when I called it quits, I figured I needed a water pump for sure, because it just didn't seem like it was circulating. But after I talked to a couple people and Googled a little bit, I think it's an air bubble. I think that's what the deal is. I'm gonna try and get that resolved today and get this thing mobile and get it out of here. The weather's not as favorable today, so I'm frozen. It's starting to snow a little bit, but we've got to get her done. I did notice as soon as I got here that the coolant level had dropped, so maybe some of that air bubble burped out last night. One of the things I do is break this steam port vent loose. I got it loosened up now, so hopefully some of the air came out through that. The other thing I did is I put it up on a jack to lift that side up more. That way hopefully it puts that steam port at enough of an angle. It's one of the higher points, plus the fill cap on the radiator. The first thing I'm going to do, I took this upper rad hose off. I'm going to hold this up as far as I can get it and fill it full of coolant, and hopefully it burps back into it and dislodges some of that air out through the steam vent. What I think is happening is there's an air bubble in that water pump and it's not circulating any fluid because of it. So we got to get rid of that and get this thing so that it's flowing the fluid. And if there's nothing on the back side of that thermostat, that's why it wasn't opening.
Four hours later.
So I'm pouring this in nice and slow so it doesn't put more air into the system. I also have that steam port crack, so hopefully it pushes any air out through that. All right, so where I had that steam port pulled off, the line off of here, and this is broke loose, I'm starting to get fluid coming out of there. That's a good sign. That was just from filling this, so I hooked that all back up. I'm gonna tighten that steam port vent, and I'll keep putting more fluid into this. I had about half a gallon in the other jug, and then I had half a gallon in this one. I used the other jug completely, and I just started to get into this one. So I don't think I have enough coolant left to top this up, but we'll get more. This should get us pretty close. All right, we've run into another issue. For some reason, I can't get this bolt for the steam port to tighten up. It doesn't want to move either way, so I don't know what the deal is there. I'm going to try and get it out and then put it back in. Hopefully that solves the problem. I'll be honest, the threads don't look real great on that. There's a fair amount of aluminum stuck in them, so I'm going to try and get that out. Hopefully it'll go back in and tighten up. So I got that on the easiest setting, trying to turn it in nice and easy without tearing up the threads worse. I've got it so that it won't go any further. I'm going to put on the next setting. And it's tight. And that was just setting number 2, so there's not a lot of torque to that one. All right, so hopefully that's solved. It just had some aluminum in the threads that was binding it up. Obviously the threads aren't the greatest inside of that hole, so we'll try not to mess with that too much. All right, so that's full. Hopefully it takes some more of it and drains down, because it's going to be hard to put that hose back on if it's... Yeah, it's going down. So it's taking it. Oh, I just heard a big surge of air. Yeah, I think we're good. right, I just topped that off and it did fill it right to the top of the spout. It's starting to settle in a bit more. We got 41 degrees coolant temperature, 17 degrees air intake. It's pretty chilly today. So now basically we just gotta wait for this thing to warm up and hopefully it's circulating. I'm just hoping that that thermostat opens up, as it wasn't yesterday at all. I can still see coolant in there, so we should be good. Okay, we're sitting right at about 140. I'll crank the heat on. It's warm. Yesterday when I was doing that, I had no heat at all. So to let this thing get up to over 190 and get that thermostat to open, if that's the case, if it opens up, we're golden. All right, the fan just kicked in, so it must have hit 195. I unplugged it so it can heat up a bit more. The thermostat is not open yet. The upper red line is hot. The heater hoses are hot. This still isn't open yet. All right, we're at 198 on the gauge. It did go up and hit 200, 201, and then it clicked back down. I still don't feel any heat in the lower rad line yet, so I don't think the thermostat is open. I don't know. I did see that the coolant level dropped. It's a good 6 inches down on the rad now. I don't have any more coolant, so shut this thing down, pack everything up, and head over to CarQuest and pick up another gallon of premix and top this thing up. The rad cap hasn't been on it the whole time, so it's not building pressure either. So we'll do all that and see if we can't get the thing to open up and see if it overheats while I'm driving it. I just noticed that this went up to 207 as I was driving, like 1400 RPM. Then when I shifted into third and was coming up the hill, the temperature started dropping. I'm at 199. That's about normal for this. It'll go between 195 and 200. So like I say, I think that's working basically where it normally would work. The temperature did go up a bit over 200 again, and then it dropped back down just as I stopped. So maybe there's a little bit of air still left in it. When I left Andrews, the level on the radiator was down to about that. I went to CarQuest, bought another jug, went to top it up. It was only down that much, so the level had raised a bit. So I'll let it sit, and I'll come back to it after, take a look at it, and see where we're at for the level of the fluid. But I would call that a success. At least I didn't have to buy a water pump. I was thinking I was going to have to. So basically I ended up getting an upper rad hose, a thermostat, 2 jugs of coolant, and the tensioner and 2 bolts. All right, you guys. So with the pig home, this wraps it up for this video. If you watched this far, thank you very much. I can't believe that this thing just ripped right off.
She gone.
I am going to get a hold of Holly and let them know that this happened. I mean, whether or not they say anything or do anything, that's another thing, but I am going to get a hold of them and let them know that this came off. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Shout out to Andrew. Thanks for letting me use his yard and borrow his bolts for his water pump. I put them back, by the way. So like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever turns your crank, and we'll see you in the next video.